film is often, and it was, as we were saying earlier, it was criticized at the time for moving away from kind of the mainstream of Italian neorealism, which the tenets of neorealism were well established as kind of this almost brutal, just looking at what's in front of you, just accepting reality in front of you and not really dramatizing it, but just kind of accepting the drama that comes naturally out of it. And in this opening section that you're describing, it's moving away from kind of just receiving the brutal reality of what's happening and into the possibility of something deeper than just simply these are the facts. These are in which the viewer is asked to kind of bring their interpretation to that. Fellini is starting to impose a dramatic arc. He's starting to impose a dramatic interpretation, or even at least at that point, it seems more of a comedic, interpretation, which is already moving things away from the center of kind of neorealism. And what's interesting about the criticism that a decision like this received from the Italian many Italian film critics, which we were saying there was a strong Marxist element there. I was reading through the French critic André Bazin's review of La Strada earlier today, and he loved the film, and indeed before the film even had its success in the United States, it was actually apparently in France was where the film was first really well received, and it hit right at that point when the cinephile movements that had come out of the post-war era were embracing all sorts of new cinema and able to receive what Fellini was trying to do here. And Bazin, in his review, he criticizes the Marxist critics. And Bazin, to be clear, was a left-wing Catholic, or a left-wing lapsed Catholic. But he was from what we understand, he was not a Marxist. He wasn't like a full-on Marxist. And so he was saying that many of these critics that they're seizing upon with neorealism is they're actually reading a certain kind of socialist realism into the neorealist, because we're dealing with subjects of poverty, of the working class, of just the brutality of life under a horrible sort of social setup. Neorealism is dealing with the realities of social life. And he was saying to the Marxists that you're reading what you like about this is that it accords with your idea of socialist realism, of a specific kind of school of art and literature that is about spreading socialist values. And as soon as a filmmaker kind of moves away into doing something more than that, that's when he sort of, he's implying that that's when the Marxists will turn on someone like Fellini. And so all of this is just from the perspective of filmmaking and film history. It's kind of it's just interesting to see the vitality, of someone like Fellini taking something that was already a very fruitful genre, if you will, and innovating and bringing it forward in a way, bringing it into something more. I won't say what that more exactly is at this point, but it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting just to echo what James Matthew was saying, like that this comes from this is peculiarly Italian. And there's something about that, that's definitely an aspect to kind of maybe dig into further in thinking about the film.
Yeah, I can really see how a Marxist critic, we get to that scene where she's being sold to Zampano, and right at the beginning of the film, it's violating what the Marxist critic might see as the canons of neorealism, in that she's excited to go with him to a certain extent. And that would be just as immediately intolerable to such a critic as the fact that she might feel some affection and even love and devotion to a man who has abused her and forced himself on her would be to a feminist critic today.
Right.
So I can see how that would just be, immediately trigger a very strong response against the film from somebody with that point of view, to the point where at the film screening at the Venice Film Festival, there was a public brawl apparently between Fellini's supporters and his detractors. So, yeah,
it's so much as a departure from the vocabulary of the communist literati of Fellini's day, that it strikes me as a misunderstanding of the film to even think of it as about material poverty. We see these people who are in brutal poverty, but the film's not about that. And in fact, I have to say, the poverty is real. We hear from the mother. She says one less mouth to feed would be really helpful. So there's the sort of, scheming materialist and mercenary mother. But then the next scene, Jessamina says to the priest in the village, "I'm going on the road." She is excited. She's now articulate about how overjoyed she is for this adventure she's about to undertake. And then the mother comes crying and running after her, "Jessamina, don't go, stay." And it just, first of all, it's already too nuanced an understanding of human life right there to fit within the rigid lines of ideologies, that most people are in fact compounds of occasional ruthless greed and also real genuine sentimental attachment, even when those things contradict each other as they do in the mother. We really do see poverty. Zampano with his gypsy motorcycle wagon getup,
wearing his old U.S. Army jacket, probably left by American soldiers after the war.
Yes, yeah, and it's so that's leather scored and scored so that it's been worn away. The only thing in my experience to even come close to the vision of that jacket are those fake leather couches you occasionally see in someone's basement, where the leather particulate has just fallen away and you just see the bare underlayment that was never meant to be seen by anybody. And that jacket's with him through the film, but it's so clearly intended to remind us that as strong as he is truly just what you would expect of somebody who's a traveling strong man who's going to join the circus. He's one of the true pariahs and outcasts of society, and it's in being stripped so bare of any social connection that, on the one hand, it enables him to be especially brutal and cruel because he stands outside the restraints of society, but it also shows it's almost entirely focused on his spiritual poverty and his need to be saved from it.